The Batman is directed by Matt Reeves, and boy, this is a good one. I will tell you right off the bat. Right off the bat, you know that Matt Reeves understands this character. Finally, we're given a Batman who just really feels like a part of Gotham. And especially in this one, where Gotham City really does feel like an extra character. But the main plot is the Riddler is obviously murdering people, and Batman has to figure it out. And we see in the trailers, we're wondering, okay, what is the Penguin gonna play? And coincidentally enough, every single character links back to the main plot. You may be looking at all the characters who are in this movie, and you think to yourself, how do they fit in? They all fit in. They all have something to do with the main plot. Every character just whittles their way into it somehow, and I think that was a really interesting thing. And of course, Batman has to figure it all out. So let's talk about the movie itself. This movie is long. It is 2 hours and 55 minutes, and you there are times where you do feel the 2 hours and 55 minutes. There was a time when I looked at my watch and I was like, wow, we were only halfway through it. But the thing is the characters and the story just it doesn't matter because you're so invested and you're just trying to figure out what is what is going on here, you know? And I think that was special about this movie, and I think Matt Reeves did a fantastic job keeping the audience engaged. Like I said, it is a 2 hours and 55 minute movie. You have to figure out how to keep the audience glued to the screen, and this movie did that. You're constantly trying to figure out what we're all going towards, what this is leading up to, and every single riddle that the Riddler left behind, you're just so involved. You feel so involved because this movie really just it understands Batman. Batman is the world's greatest detective, and we're finally seeing him be the world's greatest detective. It's amazing, and it just really works out. All right, let's talk about the characters. Let's talk about the Riddler first. Right when they announced the Riddler was going to be in the movie, I was all for it. And then they cast Paul Dano, and I got even more excited. Especially when if you've seen the movie Prisoners, you know how good of an actor this guy is. And this character, compared to the character he played in Prisoners, lines right up his alley. Paul Dano absolutely murders this role. There is a scene between him and Batman where they're just talking to each other, and it is riveting, absolutely riveting. It's very reminiscent of the interrogation scene from The Dark Knight. It was that good. And let's talk about Catwoman now, played by Zoe Kravitz. When I saw that Zoe Kravitz was going to be Catwoman, I was excited. I like Zoe Kravitz. I think she's a fantastic actress. And I knew she would play a really good Catwoman. And you know what? She did. She was really, really great as Catwoman. And unfortunately, there were times in this movie where I thought, I'm not sure if they're giving Selena Kyle, Zoe Kravitz, the right things to do. Regardless, though, her chemistry and dynamic with Robert Pattinson's Batman is fantastic. It's very comic like, and that's something that really worked. Let's talk about Colin Farrell's Penguin. Yeah, yep, everything you've heard is true. It is amazing the way he was able to portray this character, and under all the prosthetics and stuff, there were times where I'm like, "Are you kidding me? This is Colin Farrell." But I will say, the moment he started talking, I was like, okay, it clearly is him under that. And he surprised me in this movie. I didn't expect to like him as much as I actually did. And I thought he would play a much bigger role than he actually did. But some other people may say he didn't play as big of a role, or he played too big of a role. And honestly, I think looking back at it now, he played a pretty significant role and had a decent amount of screen time. And let's talk about Falcone. Um, Falcone, the plot that he was given and how it kind of stretched around the entire film, it's really interesting. But at the same time, I also think there are plot points that they could have cut. this is a 2 hour and 55 minute long movie. They could have cut out a few of his plot lines. Although there is one particular one where I believe that this could really still affect the world that they've created right now. And so I think it's going to be interesting if they decide to do that. And now Andy Serkis's Alfred. Andy Serkis's Alfred felt a lot like Happy Hogan in Iron Man 3. He's there, and then he's not for a bit, and then he's there back again, and it's one of those things where I wonder why he wasn't in there more. And if you think about it, he's not in there more. At the time this movie was filming, Andy Serkis, I believe he was also directing the sequel to Venom. So it makes sense as to why he's not in it like all that long. But I really would have liked to see more of him. But the times I did see him, I think he did a fantastic job. And now let's talk about Jim Gordon. Unfortunately, I cannot remember the actor's name at the very moment, but I think he killed it. I think he played a very modern Gordon, and I really liked the dynamic that him and Robert Pattinson's Batman had. It just worked. Like I said, this movie is very comic reminiscent. It really does feel like a comic book, and I cannot wait for what comics will come after this movie even. Because comics are going to be like, I want to make something like the Batman, and you should be excited for that. And now, of course, let's talk about the big one. Robert Pattinson's Batman is fantastic. Oh my goodness gracious. I knew he would be great, but I didn't expect him to be this great. Finally, we're seeing Batman be the world's greatest detective, and it is amazing. The tech he uses, the way he looks into things and figures things out. And sometimes Batman makes a mistake, and Robert Pattinson plays with those mistakes fantastically. Although, one gripe I do have about it. As the movie goes on, you realize, okay, this isn't going to be Batman and Bruce Wayne. This is 80% Batman. And the times I did see Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne, I wasn't a huge fan of it. I wanted to like it more than I did. But a lot of the time when Bruce Wayne is talking, it's almost like he's whispering. He's not talking in a full voice. But other than that, I think Robert Pattinson absolutely kills it as Batman. Can you compare him to Christian Bale? Not yet. You can't. I just don't think I think it's too early to compare. But of course, in this world, we're gonna want to compare, and I think that's a fair thing to do. But I think that Robert Pattinson absolutely killed it. And I think people are really going to like his performance. Something else about this movie is that if you've ever seen the movie Seven and Zodiac, oh my goodness, the comparisons to those movies are fantastic. Like those are really good noir movies, and so is this one. And especially if you've seen Zodiac, there are a couple particular shots where you're just like, well, that's Zodiac. And especially, you knew they took inspiration from the actual Zodiac killer, especially with the Riddler's logo. It has, the question mark in the middle and the 4 lines on top and below and to the sides. I thought that was really, really cool what they did with that. But overall, this movie was long. It feels long for some people. It might feel short, but for me, it felt long. But overall, I was able to stay engaged. I was able to stay curious, and that's the beauty of this film. And I think the little political messages they have in this movie, I think that a lot of people are going to be talking about those in the future. But overall, if you want to compare Robert Pattinson's Batman to anyone, Robert Pattinson has a fantastic Batman. Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne still needs some time to develop, I think. So overall, this movie is a lovely film to sit through, and I hope you enjoy it.